If you see my very cracked phone screen, no, you don't. 2023 was a really good reading year for me. I talked about it in the last video I filmed, one of my grand total of 3 videos on my channel. It was a great reading year for me. I think I read 40 books that year. I believe that's the goal I set, and I met it. It was, as I talked about in my last video, a really big time for me to get back into reading and rediscover my love of reading. 2023 and kind of 2022 as well, but definitely 2023. And I just found myself in a really good reading groove. And so coming out of 2023 and coming into 2024, I was optimistic. I set my reading goal at 52 books for the year, which seemed pretty feasible. Obviously, that averages out to about a book a week. But with the way I read, I tend to read a few books at the same time, and I'll kind of finish a few in bursts and then have a few weeks where I'm not finishing books, but I'm still making progress. And I thought that would average out to about a book a week. It's July, we're over halfway through the year now, and I have read 11 books. I have 2 more books in progress, and I kind of just wanted to reflect on why that is. I'm trying to practice self-curiosity rather than self-condemnation when it comes to perceived goals being or not being met and why that is. This channel exists kind of for 2 reasons. The first is a lot of my loved ones live very far away from me, and some of my closest friends, we love to talk about media together. So I thought when starting this channel, it would be a fun little way for me to document like the major thoughts I was having about certain reads, not every read, obviously, but certain things that I'd read for those loved ones to get to see and to interact with. The second reason this channel exists is for me. Usually when I'm reading a book or shortly after finishing a book, I have a lot of thoughts about it, but I've never been able to get into the habit of writing really in-depth reviews and posting them to my social medias or to my Goodreads and Storygraph. And for some reason, this feels a lot more accessible, just yapping at a camera for a little while. I want to, in the future, be able to look back and to remember what I was reading at this time in my life and what questions I was really asking of the books that I was reading. I want to be able to kind of see my growth as a reader and as someone who tries to critically interact with the media that they consume. And this video is definitely more the latter. I think it is very much for me to be able to look back at this time in my life and to remember kind of where I was at in my journey as a reader. I'm honestly not sure it's going to be interesting to anyone except me, and that's okay. But I think just being able to kind of document this time in my life will be a sweet thing for me to be able to look back on. Sure, it'll be good to have these memories. So the reason I say this is more of a weird reading year than really a bad one is the reasons I'm very behind on my reading goal, I wouldn't necessarily classify as bad or as failings. They were just unexpected, and there are kind of 3 main ones. The first is I've been really busy. We live in a capitalist society. Everyone always wants to talk about how busy they are. That's not really what I mean. I was busy this year in ways I didn't anticipate. So I got promoted in my job, which is wonderful. I'm very grateful for it, but it does mean that I have a lot more responsibilities now, and my mind is scattered in ways during my workday that it wasn't before. And so I get off of work and sometimes I don't have the mental energy to just pile one more thing to think about on top. Also, my husband has a job that requires him to travel a lot. And at the beginning of this year, we looked at the months of January through July, so into early August, and did the math of how much he would be gone. And it multiplied out, ratioed out, whatever the proper term is there, to 44% of those months. So almost half of the time, my husband has been gone and I've been home alone. And this is way more than even a normal work year for him. It's been a really crazy year for us, actually. But at the beginning of the year, looking forward, I thought to myself, oh, I'm going to have a lot of time alone, right? Because evenings are usually the time that we spend together, and there's going to be a lot of evenings where he's not home, and I'm just going to have time to myself, and I'll probably use a lot of that time reading. What I didn't really take into account is the fact that I really rely on him when he's home to help me with household stuff. And so the tasks that would normally be shared between 2 people all fall on me now. And so my evenings are often full of just very boring adult household things like laundry and cooking and dishes and taking care of our pets. Not that our pets are boring. I love them very much. But things that like I said, normally get split between two people, all fall on me, and so a lot of my time just gets eaten up. So that's reason number one. Life is pretty much always busy, but this year has just been busy in ways I didn't really anticipate. Reason number two, I've been writing a lot. And this is, again, why I don't necessarily think it's a bad reading year. It's just a weird one. As of this month, I've written about 70,000 words this year just for fun. My job involves a lot of writing, but I don't count that. I'm talking about like creative writing to flex those creative muscles. I've written about 70,000 words, which some writers can crank out in a month. Super respect and admire that. For me, my writing process is slower. It's a lot more cyclical. And I've always really struggled to get into a consistent writing habit. And I've really done that this year, which is really exciting. And I think in some ways is a direct result of reading more often, because I'm thinking about what makes stories work, what makes them break. I'm thinking about what makes good prose, good dialogue, good characters, and I'm finding myself wanting to practice those things, right? And try to grow those skills of my own. And so to me, this is like a really positive, exciting thing that has happened. But obviously, if I'm spending an hour writing in the evening, that's an hour I'm not spending reading. So I've just found that as my writing habit has become more consistent, my reading habit has dropped off a bit. The third thing that I didn't realize how much it affected my reading rhythm until I looked at my story graph, like graph of reading over time, is I got a concussion. I got a concussion that took me out of things for a few weeks. And once I was able to begin, like using my brain again and using my eyeballs again, I put all that energy towards my job. I work from home. I do a lot of screen time. And so as I was recovering from the concussion, I was slowly getting back into work. And then in the evenings, I was just exhausted. And so I wasn't reading physical books. I wasn't using an e-reader of any kind. I wasn't listening to audiobooks. I don't know what it was about this concussion, but audio specifically made me feel like I had wasps in my brain. And like I said, I didn't realize how much of an effect this had on kind of the groove that I was in terms of reading until I looked at my story graph. I'm going to put it up because I laughed when I saw it. I got my concussion at the beginning of March. And so you can see that I was on like this steady rise. I was in a really good rhythm, and then it just drops off. And it took me a long time to really get back into reading. So yeah, obviously an unexpected factor to my year that I did not anticipate at all that really set me back in terms of my reading goal. But this is life, right? Unexpected things happen and we move forward. So I wanted to talk a little bit about kind of my thoughts for the rest of the year. I'm not going to change my reading goal yet. I am stubbornly optimistic. Am I going to make it to 52 books? What is that? I have 41 more books to read on the second half of the year. So I have to read more in the second half of this year than I read in the entirety of last year. Realistically, is that going to happen? Probably not. But there's something about changing my goal that feels like giving up. So I'm going to stick it out a little bit longer. I don't know. There's just something, there's something that feels like giving up, but also kind of like cheating about changing it. Like I'm trying to pretend I was shooting for lower than I was rather than displaying my hubris for all to see. Anyways, some other things I have planned are, right now I'm doing a marathon of Maggie Stiefvater's novels in order of publication, her YA novels specifically. She has some children's novels and she's in some anthologies with some other authors. I've actually read 2 of the anthologies that she's in. They're great, especially if you're interested in craft and like hearing authors talk about their craft and about each other's craft. But anyways, I'm not doing that. I'm starting with Lament, which is her first YA novel ever published. I don't remember what year, it's in like the 2000s. And then working my way all the way through. I might stop before Call Down the Hawk, just in terms of like sheer volume of text. I'm not sure that I'm going to make it there. But the reason for doing this is Maggie Stiefvater is an author whose writing I really admire. I feel like her grasp of character and dialogue is really wonderful. You know, when you're young or like younger and you're reading an author you really admire, and in a weird way it makes you feel hopeless because you feel like you could never aspire to be as great as they are. Maybe that's just a me thing, but I know it's also, I talked with another friend about this and she said, yeah, I totally know what you mean. So maybe it's more of a universal thing. I think there's something really nice about becoming an adult and learning how to study writing and to really identify the different aspects of craft. and realize that your favorite authors are not superheroes. You still admire their craft, of course, but you can learn from them. And so this is something that I want to do with Maggie Stiefvater, honestly, because I was curious about Lament. I read Lament when I was in middle or high school, and it didn't leave any impression on me. I just know that I read it. But I picked it up a few months ago just out of curiosity, and it's kind of bad. It's kind of bad. And I was surprised and in a weird way comforted. Oh, my cat is here. Honey, no, not the tripod, please. She's angry at me. I'm sorry. Oh. I don't even know what I was saying. I was so surprised to find that the writing of Lament was genuinely unpleasant. Like, I didn't keep reading the book. In a weird way, it was comforting because clearly she's grown a lot as an author. So I want to read through her books in order of publication to kind of be able to track her growth as an author and to be able to really see that happen in real time. So I'm working on that, and that's like, it's a lot of books. I forget how many. I'll put it on the screen. No, do not rub your face against my tripod. That's my big plan. A few other things that I'm hoping to do in the next month or so. I recently read a duology by Julie C. Dow, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of the first book. The second book is called Kingdom of the Blazing Phoenix. I'll put them both on screen to make up for my poor memory. And I have thoughts. I took a lot of notes on these books. I read them over the span of like a month. Like the second one took me a long time to get through. And it's since been at least a month since finishing. And so I have notes. My memory is already starting to get foggy. I want to record a video of my thoughts because if you're unfamiliar, these books are kind of fairy tale retellings of The Wicked Queen and Snow White. I find her treatment of her female characters really interesting, and also like audience response to the books. I was reading Goodreads reviews to the first and second books, and I was really fascinated by what I found. And so I kind of just want to make a video chatting about that. I'm hoping to do that in the next month or so. Also, my friend is coming to visit me, and we're going to do something related to The Secret History, something silly, because The Secret History is a wonderful book, and many very intelligent people have made very thoughtful videos and reviews over the years, over the many years that it's been out. I don't really want to try to contribute to that body of work. I want to contribute to the silly, goofy body of work. So Allie and I will be doing that in the near future. And that's about all I had to say. I have been getting back into the groove of reading slowly. I just love the way it feels. Every time I like take a break from reading and get back to it for whatever reason, concussion or otherwise, I'm reminded just like how good it feels to read and to immerse yourself in a story or even nonfiction, and to just be engaging your brain with thoughts that are not your own. It just is such a wonderful way to experience humanity. I don't really know if anyone has watched this. If you watch this far, hi, thanks for listening to me blab a bit about my reading year. But also, hello to my future self. Hi, future Emma. I hope you're having a less strange reading year than you did in 2024. And I hope you are engaging very thoughtfully with whatever you're reading. Okay, bye.